Hello everybody, a great pleasure to be with you today. We are going to look at the Sphinx, an absolutely incredible structure. First I want to show you this. It is an early Egyptian mastaba. Looks a lot like the Pacific pyramids, doesn't it? Looks a lot like the Atlantic pyramids also. Now, this is something like what the Sphinx used to be. We are going to look at what the Sphinx was, say, 100,000 years ago in this video, and this photo tells us everything. So if we examine this photo, we see immediately what a lie the archaeologists have been telling us. They say that Khafre built the Sphinx. Oh really? And he built this road right across here, destroying the symmetry of the enclosure? I mean, are you kidding me? This is obviously not contemporary with Khafre. It's way older. The building itself is at least 100,000 years old. That's what's responsible for all the erosion around the Sphinx enclosure. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with the Sphinx. A lot of weird stuff. We don't know when everything was built, but I'm going to sort of show you just from this photo alone. How everything works. Just look at the colors. It was originally, I think it was originally a sort of a rectangular stepped pyramid similar to a mastaba. And what's happened is bits have been built on. If you look at all the built bits, the arms, the head, I've shown in previous videos, the head is a different color. Why is it a different color? It's been annealed on with possibly geopolymer. The head's been knocked off at one time, as proven by Robert Temple. There's an ancient Egyptian legend that says the thing was decapitated. Possibly there was a revolution at the end of the 4th dynasty. They got rid of Pharaoh. By the way, Pharaoh is certainly Pharaoh Khufu. The bad Pharaoh of the Bible is Pharaoh Khufu. That's the one Herodotus says is the bad Pharaoh. It's as simple as that. I think he carved this in his daughter's image. They knocked it off. It's been rebuilt, put back together, or it was knocked off in earlier times. Don't exactly know. The back is rebuilt, all rebuilt. It doesn't fit whatever animal this is. There's something weird going on here. You have a kind of look at it. It's circular. You have a circular terraced tower at the back. This would have been a circular terraced tower at the front. This would have been a figure 8 type building in ancient times. It's been, and this has been rebuilt around this possibly earlier pyramid, or it was a figure 8 building. So you had one possibly head here, another head here. It was either a double-headed Sphinx, or it was something else. We are going to go back in time, back to before the primitive times, to the advanced times, because I don't think we're doing enough credit to the ancient Indian traditions from India. We're not doing them enough credit at all. We need to place this in a high technological context. I absolutely love some of Robert Temple's ideas. He says this was filled with water. When he first encountered the Sphinx, he said, "What's it doing in a hole?" He didn't realize it was in a hole. And he said, well, I guess you could sail boats up to here. There was a harbor up to here, and then you could walk up this and go through the temple. Look at this area at the back. This would have been the Holy of the Holies through this temple. That's a New Kingdom temple over there, built in later times, even built on top of this one because this one got buried. But even this is newer than this. This is a very, very incredibly old structure. Let's place it in a high-tech context. I think we can go back 100,000 years. I don't think this was filled with water because I don't think that is going far enough and doing justice to the ancients. I think this was filled with mercury. This was metal lined. The metal was taken away and scrapped. Look at these beautiful sharp corners here. That's beautiful. That's unbelievable. They're everywhere, except here they've been eroded. This was a metal-lined enclosure. It was probably sitting in, I think it was sitting in liquid mercury, in some kind of molten low boiling point metal. We'll get to why in a moment. I think there are copper wires running up and down through this inside. You can actually go inside the Sphinx. There's different tunnels and so forth. It is a building. I think it is designed partly to channel the fair weather current of the Earth. It is a part of an ancient attempt at a power grid in the Nikola Tesla style. Whether it was a success or not, I don't know. I think just like today, the ancients were doing experiments. As you know, you need to do a thousand failed experiments before you do a successful one. So don't know if it worked or not. There's certainly copper inside the pyramid. We know the pyramid shafts have copper inside them. Copper is highly conductive. Mercury is highly conductive. I think this was sitting in Mercury. Here, these were two towers, positive and negative electrodes, and I think this was designed to channel fair weather current. There's 300,000 volts between the ground and the sky. This is sitting on top of a hill. This was a lightning experiment receiver sitting in Mercury, possibly designed to generate ball lightnings or something else. It was similar to Tesla's tower. Why the Mercury? Well, Mercury figures quite prominently in ancient tradition. Here you have something quite interesting. What happened in the New Kingdom? We know about Thutmosis. We know about the Dream Stealer. Thutmosis lay down on the sand next to the head of the Sphinx, and he received telepathic messages from the Sphinx, or a dream, or God knows what it was. And he was told to dig it up. It said, "Dig me up, free me." So he said, "Okay." So he wrote down his dream, and he placed this stealer next to the paws of the Sphinx. Superstitious Egyptians living nearby immediately started chipping it away and using the bits of stone for fertility reasons. They thought it would bring them luck. And as I've pointed out in another video, and I'm sure many others have pointed out as well, I've seen it in books, they've said that's a hall of records underneath the Sphinx. It goes way down. There's a huge structure down there. We're just seeing the top of it. I think there were two towers here. There's obviously a lot more below. Here we see the stepped structure of the old building. Everything else has just been built around it in the Old Kingdom. The head's completely fake. They turned it into a statue. Mercury is found at the bottom of Mexican pyramids. That skeleton seems to be covered in cinnabar, which is mercuric ore, a red substance. What's going on? And they think, well, there was liquid mercury in the pyramids. I don't know the exact details. But there were little lakes of liquid mercury. Now, it's consistent with Egyptian ideas told to Herodotus, of Khufu being buried on a coffin surrounded by a lake. Well, that is so similar to what we see with the Sphinx. Of course, later Egyptians were superstitious and they didn't understand the high technology of the past. The ancient high technology, whatever the Sphinx was, it was some kind of receiver, communication device, electrical communication device, channeling device. Absolutely unbelievable. But why Mercury? Well, Mercury is very good for pyramids, even in later times, because it's used electronically. It can conduct electricity. So, why in Mexican pyramids? What's going on with that? Well, it's got a little bit to do with this. So, and to do with the sun as well. So let's say the sun shines on this scientific experiment, if that's what it was 100,000 years ago, the mercury will then expand. The thermal coefficient expands. And this is how mercury can be used in electronics. Mercury expands to complete the circuit. It conducts, it expands, it then completes this circuit, and it activates something. So therefore, this can be a machine which is activated during solstices. It faces the sun. It's looking towards the sun. It's fed by the sun. The whole of Egypt is sun religion and always has been. It's where the sun religion comes from. But why? Possibly because the sun powered things in ancient times. So it's facing the setting sun. It's wanting the sun to come back. They didn't know what it was in later times, so they became superstitious about the whole affair. If this can expand and reach a certain level in this lake, this artificial lake, it then triggers electronics. It activates things. Things happen. I wish I knew what they were. I think, and this is all a thought experiment, could be totally wrong, but I think we need to do justice to the ancients. We need to place this Sphinx in a scientific context and forget completely about placing it in a Stone Age context, because this is way older. I mean, we have proven that. We have proven this is way older. Everyone is saying it is way older. We need to look, I think, to the technological age. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a pleasure. Now, there's more. Getting back to the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme, why Mexican pyramids? Now, I'm not sure if there ever were any booby traps in pyramids. I don't know where the idea comes from. I am guessing there were. For instance, in Easter Island, which is based on Native Americans going over, sailing across the Pacific, Thor Heyerdahl found himself in a type of booby trap. He was able to crawl into a tunnel one way, but was unable to exit because returning, the true exit was concealed and he went in the wrong direction. So there are booby traps. Now, what you can use Mercury for is when sunlight is, say, exposed. Sunlight exposes Mercury, raises the thermal coefficient, completes the circuit, activates the booby trap. So therefore, you open up the door, you let the sun in, everything changes. The temperature goes up. It's a hot desert outside. Then sun can be beamed through a lens onto a vial of mercury. It completes the circuit. It activates a gravity device. It sets off the booby trap. So mercury can be used, obviously, in booby traps. You combine mercury with the sun. That could be its use in pyramids. If there were booby traps in pyramids, I'm not sure. You might like to correct me about this if you like. I'm not sure where the idea of booby traps comes from. I think it comes from reality, but I'm not sure. What do you think about all this? And I'll see you at the next video. Cheerio.